try to adjust this. So I do have my window open, so maybe some issue with the light and everything like that. Are we gonna be good though? Okay, if my cards and everything is not, nope. Look at that. Sorry about that. If my cards don't show up clear, then I'll let my curtain down. But as of right now, we're gonna work with it and see how it goes. Anyway, so the messages that I have for you guys, I was getting messages about the extremes, right? With this yin yang energy, like dark and light, malevolent dark light, benevolent dark light. Um, you know how, especially in religion, this is like where you can, like where it's most profound, where you can really see this, right? When we're talking about people who be on the extremes of either energy, right? People who are on the extremes of light, who are on the extremes of dark. So, for example, people who are deeply religious or who are still under that religious veil um, when it comes to spirituality, right? So, limitations that they may have adopted as a result of these extremist attitudes. So, that's what I'm getting, like, to remember there is a polarity to all things, and to also recognize the gray areas, the in between areas as well. They do matter, right? They're just as important, just as critical as the light and dark. Um, Another thing, too, spiritualized, something that, well, an essence of energy that a lot of people may be familiar with when it comes to the gray area of spirituality are the jinn spirits, right? Um, jinns and genies, right? These are individuals who are, they're not either, it's not that they're light or dark, they're neutral, right? They can be good or evil. They can be used for good or evil at any time, right? So, in a sense, it's like instead of making it such a concrete and just that manifestation of the gray area energy, of the neutral energy, we still have to keep in mind the polarities of it, right? So we've been recognizing the polarities of dark energy, that there's a such thing as high vibrational dark. We've been recognizing the polarities of light energy, understanding that there's a such thing as a low vibrational light, right? So there's also a such thing as a high vibrational gray area, right? Um, Now, what I was hearing is that it's a process of, or something like it's like a dance of operating, utilizing both energies, like interchangeably. So, the ability to be benevolent light, ability to be benevolent dark, ability to be benevolent neutral, right? So that's what I have for you. So, that's the channeling that I was getting. Okay. So 1212, this is the number that shown itself to me too when I got this challenge. So it represents a lack of awareness of the power you possess, overcoming your skepticism and negativity in order to achieve your goals. Stay true to yourself and allow outdated energy to fall away. So this is what's going on at this time as well. This is what you're being asked to do at this time, or being, pushed in a position to ponder this, right? So it's just reminding us that thoughts are little seeds. Thoughts are like seeds you are planting in the universal source. Keep thoughts focused on positive outcomes. So this is another thing about the limitations of extremist attitudes, right? Um, it can it can cause blockages around seeing things from different angles, from seeing the middle ground of a situation to compromise, like especially with discord and all these, a lot of differences and stuff like that, because there's a lot of lack of togetherness and unity for the sake of differences, and a lot of this stem from extremist attitudes. So this is why Spirit is highlighting, hey, we need to know how to also operate from that great spiritual energy. So another thing about the gray aura that was just emphasized to me, These are things that we're familiar with, but it's more so us honing in and making these connections, right? Putting the puzzle pieces together about this energy, right? Because all colors have a frequency, right? So we need to emphasize gray. Why, when it comes to movies or, different depictions of the spirit realm, a soul, a spirit, a ghost, whatever, why is it always depicted as some type of gray matter or gray force or like this misty energy, right? So this is why, they brought this associated with every color. So this is why, this is being emphasized to us. The power of the color gray, or the in between, the gray areas, the gray matter of the brain, right? Okay. Okay, so another message I got a download was stop feeling like you're in a race or a competition. Survival of the fittest is so tainted and skewed. That's the word I got. Stop feeling like you're in a race or competition. Survival of the fittest is so tainted and skewed. All right. All right. So just to go deeper into the significance of the color gray, and why, being able to detect or identify the shape or condition of people's auras, people's spirit auras, which will, it has like a gray, tone, right? Because the thing about the gray aura or the spirit, this spirit aura, is that it can change like intent and tone of the color. And this has a lot to do with the condition of that person's energy or their frequency at that time. So for example, a silver gray, right, where it looks like tones of white, like kind of like a shiny, shimmery silver gray. These are individuals who likely engage in, they really invest in their spiritual life, right? Their spiritual wellness. These are people who meditate on a regular basis. These are people who, engage in yogic practices and stuff like that. Or individuals who are spiritually transforming, on this path of evolution and development spiritually, right? These are individuals who radiate a silver gray aura. For example, you know how oftentimes we associate dark grayness or cloudiness, like especially like with the weather, like dark gray clouds with like storms and gloominess and moodiness and this, that, and the third. So we're able to recognize, that degree, or, that degree of gray, but, it's not often that we actually apply ourselves to really look at people's energy and aura, whenever we're in contact with them, right? So the fact that we was talking about the clairs the other day, being clairvoyant. So a person who has a gift of clairvoyance, this is an individual who can see other people's auras. This is a person who will be able to identify, these gray auras that's lingering on a person's vessel, right? Because another thing about a gray aura is that it can also stick to specific parts of the body where there's like pain or discomfort or some type of debilitation or imbalance. So whereas, you could be like your normal or more healthy silver aura, in other aspects of yourself. Let's say, you're dealing with a heartbreak, or let's say you have something attached to your back, like some type of spiritual attack, attached to your back and stuff like that. That particular area, that specific area of your body may be darker, in its gray hue, right? So people who are really gifted, in clairvoyancy gifts and stuff like that, and they're able to visually see, energy and spirits on people and entity attachments. This is why, these people are able to identify this. Okay. So gray is the color of knowledge, intellect, and wisdom. It is perceived as classic, refined, dignified, and conservative. Gray is a perfect neutral that lives between the extremes of black and white. Sophisticated, middle ground, of reasonable agreement, associated with wisdom and authoritative. So this is this is the energy, or this is the what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say caliber, but this is the caliber, for us to reach as divine souls, like having and managing a silver gray aura, right? This is why meditation and Making sure you're doing conscious and mindful breathing practices. This is why, it's very important for us to apply these things daily, right? Or come up with a regular routine, of this constant in and out cycle of energy, right? Because we're always picking up energy, so we always need a way to properly disperse or put that energy, where in its proper place. Okay. So this also talks about you being in a more authoritative energy, feeling confident, speaking with authority behind your voice, projecting your voice more. You could have been soft spoken. Understand too, if this, the authentic collective consists of souls who are on different parts of their journey, right? So keep that in mind. Like, I'm addressing different people, so if it does not resonate with you specifically, then it's not for you, it's for someone else. So there are some people who's, growing, in their confidence and their boldness behind projecting their voice and their ideas, their emotions, their thoughts, their opinions, their input, their portion of the pie, right? So you can be in this energy right now where you no longer feel ashamed about being sophisticated, having a more sophisticated approach or perception to life. But also, this keeps a lot more peace in your life as well. Like, it's like it helps prevent you from internalizing energies or emotions that are not yours. So it saves you a lot of energy, because too much gray aura energy, or too much gray, is draining, right? It's very draining. Okay. So the negative associations of gray is perceived as emotionally distant or disconnected, morally questionable matters as well, gray area, indecisive. Okay, so this is another thing too, like addressing the gray areas, or making a habit out of always reviewing the gray areas of things, that especially things where it's being presented to you as very extreme, like the delivery of the approach, or whoever, the person's attitude behind the matter is that of an extreme, perspective, an extreme view, right? Because the thing about the color gray is it's a blend of black and white, right? It's right in the middle. So if black represents power and white represents purity, gray basically loses purity and richness of power, right, of black. So it's in between. This is why it's considered a neutral color. But we understand that sometimes neutrality can cause more, harm than good, right? This is why we have sayings like, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, right? And that's true. That's very true. But this is also being able to agree to disagree. Accept that, to each their own. Don't internalize people's actions and decisions or their perceptions of how how you act and, how you govern yourself in your life. There's no reason to get all worked up, to get into fights and arguments, and to, really, really, like, allow yourself to degenerate or downgrade, for the sake of being proven, or to prove your point, right? The need to be right. So that's why I was hearing too, releasing the need to be right with certain energies who have extreme attitudes, right? Because it's more than likely going to lead to some type of argument or confrontation. It's going to get more blown up, out of proportion than it need be. So when you're able to recognize and detect that in people, like just by viewing however they carry themselves or how they speak, whatever, when you're able to, detect that and foresee that, you're supposed to use that information to will more peace in your life and more structure, right? More discipline upon yourself. Like, in this case, I am going to hold my tongue. In this case, I am going to be neutral in a situation, because when making my judgment and my assessment tells me that being neutral, being in the gray area of this situation, is going to will me the best results, or it's going to will, the best possible application that I could add to this situation or this energy, right? So this is what this is talking about. Okay, so a fun fact about the color gray too, right? Was this detail about nature, the creatures, gray foxes. Gray foxes are the only member of the dog family with the ability to climb trees, right? So when you master this ability of benevolent neutrality, this helps you climb over obstacles that in creative ways that other people wouldn't. And what I mean by that is that, you know how you can make things harder than it needs to be for yourself. You can make things more difficult than it needs to be. So this is saying, you know, these are ways, you know, or these are things to apply within yourself to avoid more problems or more difficulty than necessary. So this is where, you know, neutrality comes in, right? And the power of it, the sophistication of it. So it makes me think of the leopard. So what I love about the leopard, even though a lot of people are most familiar with the lion, right? And the lion is the king of the jungle, yada, yada, yada. But see, and, you know, in some African cultures, 11:11 when I said this, in some African cultures, they actually prize the leopard, you know, more than the lion, because the leopard is like really about their business, about their family, you know, about their own shit. You know, they're not really confrontational beings or initiators of conflict. They don't initiate conflict, but they will defend their own, and they will try to find ways to avoid or go around the situation, you know, if they can. Like, if they can avoid a situation, they will avoid it. So this is what Spirit is telling us, that if we know we honestly can avoid conflict, we honestly can avoid drama, we honestly can avoid burdens or stress or, you know, us being drawn out or our emotions getting riled up or whatever. If we honestly can avoid it, then avoid it. This is how you master, you know, balance of neutrality, right? Balance of all of it. Not just the extremes, yin yang, but the in-between factor as well, you know, that brings it together, right? Because depending on how people operate out of these energies and they're imbalance, or, you know, them drawing these things to work interconnectedly, depends on, like, the effect of whatever their outcome is going to be, right? So we can two people can do the same thing and, you know, try to achieve a goal. But the person with a negative attitude, you know, they don't achieve it or whatever. The person with a positive attitude does achieve it. So yeah, it's very simple. So I'm not really going to, like, go deeper than that. So some details about, some information about the silver gray aura says that it highlights powerful connection of our mind and spirit. Highlights powerful connection of the mind and spirit. So that mind-spirit connection, right? So another thing about gray and why it's so significant. In neurology, you know how there's, in terminology, they say that there's gray matter in the brain, either surrounding, like, certain parts of the brain or just throughout the brain in general, right? So what is this gray matter about, right? So you can definitely believe that this gray matter is associated with all of the meanings and depictions of the color gray, right? So also the subconscious mind, the unconscious minds, the gray areas of the mind, right? What gets talked about the least, what gets talked about, discussed the least, right? What is explored the least, you know, in your life, right? A lot of people focus more on the conscious mind opposed to subconscious and unconscious, right? So people who have this type of aura, meditate and practice yoga, those who are going through spiritual improvements also show this aura. So when it comes to these colors, like these different color auras, I got this from a source on numerology.com if you want to go see for yourself, or if you want to, you know, as a sidebar or whatever, you can look up each color. You may already be familiar with each color, like just, you know, spiritually, like, especially if you're clairvoyant. So you have like an innate and inner knowing of this. Heather gray. If a person has a heather gray aura, which is kind of more like a staticky looking color, they are probably suffering from a long-term sickness. They could show signs of pessimism or a pessimistic attitude. People who are highly sensitive tend to fall within this this degree of aura. And it can imply that you need attention and special care, right? So here's another thing about the aura in general, the spirit, right? And the gray aura. The fact that, you know, it can modify itself, it can change, it can shift. Anybody, this can happen to anybody. Anybody is subject to this, right? So this is why when we have like darker moments or good days and bad days, or we'll have moments where we feel more gloomy, more moody and stuff like that, you know, we could radiate a heather gray aura. Whenever we center ourselves, we go in and we ground ourselves, we restore ourselves in nature with meditation, with yoga. This is how we restore our aura back to the silver gray aura, right? Which is ultimately the goal. This is the aura we want to maintain and manage, right? This is the natural equilibrium, right? This is the balance between opposing opposites and this, that, and the third. All right, so we have charcoal gray. Can indicate a negative aspect of your life, perhaps going through a state of depression. Can lead to mental illnesses and sometimes suicide. For those who fail to get out of their misery, it is highly likely that their aura will then deepen or return darker. And we already understand that if your aura is too dark or too much gray, we know what that leads to. It can lead to you feeling drained or dreary and stuff like that. Or it can cause you to be a very draining source upon other people, right? Like that misery loves company energy. These are individuals who radiate that charcoal gray aura. So then we got the muddy gray. This is related with fear. Fear taking root in your system can reflect and it can reflect in your health status. Can reflect on a specific part of the body as well. So this is what we also was talking about, and this is why fear is used in oh my God. This is why fear is exercised so much in our culture, or in the form of programming the mind, right? Scare tactics. Because of what it does to your system, to your nervous system. It has a way of working itself into other systems of your body to really deeply ingrain itself, right? And we're talking about uprooting things from the subconscious that ultimately work against us or oppose ourselves, right? So regardless of if there's like an actual tangible attack or enemy or whatever the case may be, more so now, you know, what's most important is us, you know, uprooting these things out of the subconscious, so that regardless of what's happening in the physical form of a person, you know, the same effect does not apply. The same the outcome differs. The outcome is better. It's because it's like your actions are with more wisdom now. So you're expecting good, positive outcomes, right? That number 1212, that's the energy of 1212, to expect positive outcomes. All right, but muddy gray. So think about how many people radiate a muddy gray aura. People who are easily, you know, scary, and, you know, they buy into these fear tactics, these scare tactics. Or think about, you know, lack mentality, poverty, you know, having a lack or poverty mentality, or this, that, and the third, right? You know, this is fear of lack, fear of instability, fear of, you know, insecurity, this, that, and the third. So this could cause you to radiate a muddy aura. And if your aura is muddy, that means you can attract more dark energies, right? This could cause you to attract more illnesses as well, right? Because it's dirty. So it's talking about, you know, your vessel being infected with a frequency. Because at this point, if it's muddy, it turns to an infection, or it's more likely to cause or will infection. This is why fear often, escalates into some type of illness or ailment in the body, right? This is how it manifests. And like we were saying earlier, wherever it manifests throughout your body, that specific area can radiate this muddy gray aura opposed to your entire temple, right? All right, so then we have bright gray. So bright gray represents, bright gray is a gray that's increased, that has an increased level of white. So a person radiating this aura may be starting to understand their natural gifts and abilities, and it refers to the start of a long journey. So people who are more so like at the beginning of their spiritual journey radiate this aura, right? And I think because it has like a lot of innocence, right? Naivety. So it's easy, it's like you have to be careful. You have to be careful. All right. So then we got the dirty gray, right? Which is the final one up here. And it basically signifies spiritual blocks. So that's why we say too much gray can cause you to be drained, cause you to be moody, cause you to be imbalanced, apathetic, distant, all of those things. All right, so these are other manifestations of the color gray. Traits associated with it is being calm, detached, lacking energy, balance, and neutrality. So this talks about a person who is not emotionally dependent. This is someone who would simply sit in the background while being entertained by the conflict. So once again, not allowing yourselves or taking the back seat to drama, when it's unnecessarily for you to be involved in, right? It's something that you can avoid. Like the feelings that come with it, the energy that comes with that could be avoided by you just, staying out of it. Sometimes keeping your input to yourself, 22, right? In order to maintain the balance in partnerships too, because there are going to be differences. You're gonna bump heads, or there are going to be differences in opinions and sometimes, but we have to know how to still remain, cool, calm, and collected with one another just because we have differences. Just because we see things differently, we perceive things differently, or we decide to do it a different way, right? Does not mean that, okay, that we're not compatible at all. Like we can't have any togetherness or any cooperation at all, right? So these things getting blown out of proportion, like this is basically, we're basically being told to get a handle on that, right? Or individuals who still struggle with this, not allowing ourselves to stoop to a level of ourselves that we've already evolved out of, or an energy or a frequency, a way of doing things that's most dominant, right? Yeah, and this was so on time. Somebody, my brother messaged me regarding this very topic. Extremes of the yin yang energy, extremes of feminine energy, extremes of masculine energy, and what that looks like, how it manifests, right? How we need to recognize it and not only, make sure this is something that's totally uprooted within ourselves, but when we witness this in other people, or this is brought towards us or brought our way as a challenge, as a test, we need to make sure we're passing these tests and we don't allow ourselves, to fall back into those toxic cycles, right? All right, so like I was saying, too much gray can make your spirit feel drained and dreary. Natural fluctuation in the absence of life or light makes it extremely taxing to your body. Monotonous appearance of this color can introduce distress and fear, anxiety, and tension to your soul. To your soul. 2444 when I said that. So monotonous appearance of this color, of this aura. People who exude this type of monotonous, nonchalantness energy way too much, right? That lack of zest for life. Those kind of people. The kind of people that you have to keep pouring into, or they require a lot of encouragement and ego scrolls. Those type of energies. Or people who just they seem, like I said, that lack of zest for life. They lack optimism for life and doing new things, doing fun things and stuff like that. Even people like that can be draining to you too, right? But the message that I got for that is that we really need to work on our breathing, because what I was noticing about myself too is the tension just within my body, like within my lungs, like my throat, this, that, and the third. When, I'm not, deeply breathing, or I'm taking a lot of short breaths, like a bunch of short breaths, right? And not conscious breathing. So what I notice is that when I pick up on that about myself, and then I, take out, the time to actually consciously do deep breathing, right? I notice like a whole, like a purity, like, or a reset within my body, within my mind. Like I feel clearer within myself, right? So this is talking about, applying breathing methods, helpful breathing methods as well, whenever we encounter these experiences or these people, right? So gray loses the purity of white and the power of black. I already said that. Therefore, it does not come with any powerful emotional effect. Mostly related to logical and practical things. So what is the most practical, the most logical thing to do in that situation, right? Opposed to, getting caught up and pulled into the drama. Unnecessary stress, right? Unnecessary time of your life being wasted, right? Over something that initially, is either not that serious, or is simply there to serve as a distraction. That's the whole purpose of it being there. All right. To throw you off your focus, off your priorities. It's that and the third. But when you know that it can be avoided, you need to avoid it instead of worrying about proving a point, right? Okay. So this says, once the gray area manifests on your spirit, there is a good chance that it will not arouse any strong emotional effect. Nonetheless, the effect will still depend upon the richness of the black or the white, right? So this is talking about this energy manifesting on us at this time, but understand that depending on where people are within the black and the white, right, the extremes of the polarities, that's going to dictate the outcome of these situations, right? That's what's going to dictate everybody's outcomes. So you're going to have malevolent grays and you're going to have benevolent grays, right? So where there may be people who are losing zest for life for whatever reasons, it could be like just their lifestyle habits. Something that really used to be prominent was people trying to numb themselves, trying to numb their emotions like to things and feeling like this is the answer. This is what's going to help them like be able to cope and deal with people, have their dealings with life, or, eventually get to whatever place they want to get to within themselves, learning how to numb themselves. But, when you're benevolent, we have our own version of that too. And our own version of that is developing a tough skin to shit, right? Developing a tough skin, not a matter of us just turning off our emotions altogether, demonizing emotions, belittling it and this, that, and the third, and, not giving ourselves permission, to be emotional creatures as well. Exactly, it's natural, but so when we try to teach ourselves, to not act out of our emotions, at that point, we're becoming unnatural. So you're going to automatically become disconnected with nature. You're going to be disconnected with others. Exactly. Subconscious. That's where habits come in. Habitual patterns, right? This is something that you then allow to store itself in your subconscious. Then it becomes even more challenging for you to overcome. So, All right, so that's what I got. Those are the notes that I took regarding the gray aura, the gray area. Okay. So boundaries. Stop feeling like you're in a race or competition. Survival of the fittest is, in some ways, is tainted and skewed, right? So there's some perceptions behind this survival of the fittest attitude that is actually not so healthy for us mentally, as it pertains to self-esteem, this, that, and the third, or self-concept, identity. So what I'm hearing too, there's some people who are, there's like a lot of confusion regarding identities right now. So identity crises. I'm hearing this is why, you know, us working on how we show up in neutrality, this is why this is being emphasized at this time too, because it's going to help us help others who are dealing with identity crises. So another thing about properly evaluating and analyzing gray areas of things, or just focusing on this, because I'm hearing too, like, this is something that also can be felt as it pertains to the aura. You're going to be able to feel it in your body and feel it on yourself, or feel the difference. But what needs to really be done here is overcoming too much skepticism and negativity, or finding ways to avoid that. So overcoming skepticism and negativity in order to achieve your goals by staying true to yourself and allowing outdated energy to fall away. There's no point. What's the purpose of continuing to argue, you know, about the same shit? You already spoke your piece on it. Like, you already spoke your piece on the matter. There's no point for you to be repeating the same thing just to be in the drama, right? Stress, fucking with your health and shit like that. No. You know, after so much stress, it really can negatively impact your nervous and your somatic system too. So some people are going to be forced to place boundaries, like to really stand on their boundaries. And of course, some people not going to fucking like that shit. And they may try to challenge you and try to draw you out. Try to start up an argument. Say a little slick, shady remark because you stand your ground. You know, you confront the matter. You're that person, right? You're not no beat around the bush type shit. But this is saying no, hold your tongue, hold your peace, because you already know what it is. You already know their intent. You know that they intentionally want any type of fucking energy. So no, you can't allow yourself to do that. Remain neutral. It's not about you, being weak. That ain't got shit to do with it. But you're just not going to stoop to their level, or stoop to a level that you no longer reside in, right? All right. So boundaries with extremists. Like, we need more boundaries with people who have extremist attitudes. Or people who go to the extremes, like just to get to you, or just to compete with you. That's what I'm hearing. Stop feeling like you're in a race or a competition. Yeah, because these people feel like they're in a race or a competition with you and with others. So they may be resorting to extreme measures. That's what I'm hearing. People are desperate and resorting to extreme measures at this time to prove whatever status, to prove a status, an image. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna pull some cards on the matter. And I want to pull something from Harry Potter. This makes me think about the verdict that Solomon made with the mothers, where he said, okay, well, bring me my knife and we'll just cut the baby in half. I feel like that's an example of operating from the gray area. Operating from the gray area, the gray aura. A sense of neutrality and a benevolent sense, right? It's like a little mixture of dark and white and light or whatever. Because he wasn't going to do it for real, but he excited fear in them in order to get, you know, the truth of the matter. So he excited, he played on their mind, you know. He played on their emotions just to get truth, you know, get the truth of the situation. You know, not just the intent to, oh, I'm the judge, and since y'all I'm just gonna kill the baby, I'm gonna be done with this because I'm not about to sit here and keep going back and forth with y'all. Like, that's y'all business, they ain't got shit to do with me, right? So you have people who are, you know, they are those kind of neutral people. Yeah, we don't really care too much for those. Okay, so we got personal growth. When Neville Longbottom first arrives at Hogwarts, he is shy, for a forgetful boy who struggles with his magic. By the end of the final film, he is a hero who courageously fights in the Battle of Hogwarts and kills Nagini, one of Voldemort's last Horcruxes, with the Sword of Gryffindor. How does Neville's story inspire you along your own journey? Right, so this is talking about coming out of shyness too, like stepping out of your comfort zone as well. You're welcome. Stepping out of your comfort zone, because it's I know that's definitely something with me, shyness. Like, it took me a while. Look, y'all, identity. Just got done talking about it. Identity. So you could also, or someone could be experiencing a loss around you as well. But this loss is necessary for their personal growth, and it's going to help them like really come into their identity, their own identity. So whoever this person was, they could have been impacting their identity, or they're self-conscious of themselves. They could have been getting lost in this person's shadow, or this person's light, or this, that. It's something like that. We also got working hard is important, but there is something that matters even more. Believing in yourself. Working hard is important, but there is something that matters even more. Believing in yourself. So it's nice to believe in others, but to believe in what they're doing, you know, and influence or whatever the case may be. But this is talking about finally believing in your own self, your own abilities, your own power, right? Because another thing too about 12:12, it says this is an individual, or you could be lacking awareness of the power you possess your damn self, right? Whether it doesn't matter, you having the ability to recognize it in other people. This is talking about you recognizing your own power and believing in it, putting yourself out there, right? So it says we all struggle from time to time to believe in our own value and capabilities. Sometimes it's important to remind ourselves how far we've come. Make a list of 10 accomplishments, big or small, that you've achieved in your life. Read through it the next time you're struggling to believe in yourself, as a reminder of just how strong and capable you really are. Right? And this is something that comes with growth. This is something that comes with growth and finding your identity, or just becoming confident and bold in expressing your identity with others. Right? Being vulnerable to be judged. Right? Doesn't mean you internalize the judgments, but you find confidence in, you know, being vulnerable, right? And not give people the power to weaken you or weaken your emotions or rouse up your emotions, you know, just because they place or generate their judgments of you, right? So you're needing to be more neutral in it. So needing to be more neutral when receiving criticisms as well, or people's biases and opinions of you, instead of, you know, getting too whether you be defensive or not, you know, You don't have to, you know, get too rowdy and shit. Right? And let it draw you out. What other messages do you have for us? Especially when it comes to values and beliefs. Honesty. Oh, honestly, don't you too read? For Hermione Granger, there is almost nothing that can't be solved by consulting a book. In fact, there are many instances throughout the films where Hermione's bookishness helps her friends save the day. She even carries a huge stack of books in her enchanted bag when she, Ron, and Harry go hunting for Horcruxes. Books play a huge part in how Hermione understands and interacts with the world. Have you ever come across a book or books that had a strong effect on your life? What were they, and why do you think they affected you so much? Alright, so this is who you are. Like, you're someone who goes after knowledge, who goes after this information to expand your awareness, to expand, you know, your understanding of the world, and not just going off what the only people who's been in your life, not just going off what they've, you know, presented to you or whatever. But see, this assertiveness that she has behind her voice, she's very sure of herself, you know, with this information, regardless of people, you know, regardless of how people try to make it negative or find ways to try to make you feel indifferent because you rather have your books, or you rather have books than, you know, whatever. You rather read a book than watch TV or some shit. Like, I don't know, man. But something about books too, because that came out yesterday. So there's some information or some clarity for you in a book. Wherever book you feel drawn to, or something you feel drawn to read, that's being, you're being spiritually guided. There's a message in it. Obliviate is a powerful spell used in the Harry Potter films to erase memories. If you could use Obliviate to erase any one memory from your mind, what would it be? So this is talking about erasing like subconscious habits that are not healthy for us. They are not conducive to our growth, right? Obliviate. So this is needing to look, you know, in between the lines as well. So the gray area. Or how can you feel more neutral in these extreme situations and experiences? How can you find a more neutral balance or perspective of this, right? Instead of creating, like, you know, more pain and extreme emotions for yourself, right? So you're needing to change or shift your perception towards whatever these kind of triggers or these kind of experiences are, you know, so that you don't keep reenacting old subconscious patterns that are destructive to you, that act as setbacks, right? It's like taking it's like taking 2 steps forward and then 10 steps back, right? Yeah, because there's some resistance here. Resistance. So you have to stop we have to get out of being resistant to receiving love, receiving grace, returning back to grace, or possessing grace, you know, even in chaotic situations, or, you know, amidst these situations. So resist the urge to stoop, you know, to these levels. Resist the urge to defend yourself when you don't have to fucking defend yourself. Like, it's very clear. And then, you know, is it really, it's like, weigh the odds. Like, is it really necessary? Is it really necessary? Right? What's going to come out of it? What's going to be the outcome? Is it going to be a positive outcome if you respond this way or react this way? So what action can you take is going to be more aligned with the positive outcome you desire. So that's what it's talking about here. Whomever is in the middle or you's in the middle, like, it's kind of irrelevant for real. The test is how you respond to the situation. We need new responses. We need more evolved. Like, we need better improved responses now. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Fred and George Weasley challenged the regime of the tyrannical Professor Umbridge. by unleashing a barrage of fireworks in the middle of the 5th year's owl exams before making an impressive exit on brooms. Do you think a public spectacle like this can be an effective way to protest a bad situation? Would you participate in something like this, or would you prefer to make a quiet exit? Would you prefer to make a quiet exit? Especially when you're accused of something you did not fucking do. Oh my God. So is it always necessary to make a public spectacle when you're accused of something that you did not fucking do? When you know ultimately the test is to not allow this to draw you out. Stop allowing this shit to draw you out, bruh. Elevate. Elevate. That's not your energy. That's not your drama to internalize. Right? It doesn't matter. Even if it is a part of you, your response doesn't have to match the same energy as the person bringing the shit to you. So, what did you do to try and prove your innocence, and was it effective? In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry is put on trial before the Ministry of Magic for performing magic outside of school. Although the ministry wants to expel him, Harry, with Professor Dumbledore's help, asserts that his actions were justified due to life-threatening circumstances. Fortunately, he is found innocent and allowed to return to school. So you experienced some great betrayals, like you experienced a great betrayal here, where it was a challenge around you forgiving this person who was very disloyal to you when you were very loyal to them. There's some challenge around this. Whether this is current or in the past or recent. But this has a lot to do with whatever these ingrained subconscious habits is, or these subconscious blocks that you have with relationships and connections or whatever. Not allowing yourself to receive love or give love, you know, at the from a healed place, a secure place. So you can't allow like these betrayals, you know, to put you in the energy to never, you know, really cooperate with others or with new connections, right? Yeah, okay. So some of you could have been questioning your beliefs, or, you know, these were kind of actions or betrayals that when these individuals they questioned your beliefs somehow, or it was like some type of, the extremes, like religious extremists. And excuse me. All right. Have you ever had to question any of your beliefs? If so, what prompted you to begin to change your mind? A draconian? A vampire? Draco Malfoy is part of an ancient and privileged wizarding family whose belief in the superiority of pureblood wizards is matched only by their devotion to the dark arts and Lord Voldemort. Draco internalizes this point of view wholeheartedly, growing from a spoiled child into a cruel and arrogant teenager. It is not until Draco becomes a Death Eater and is given a horrifying task by Voldemort that he begins to question his upbringing. All right, so there's a lot of questioning around our upbringings as well. So what I'm hearing too with this retrograde, or this next retrograde we're gonna have, it's not gonna be focused so much on what we generally know retrograde to represent, or what a lot of people associate it with when it comes to like old people returning back to your life, this, that, and the third. This is more so focused on like things of the past, like having to do with the subconscious. Like where the subconscious needs to grow and expand and evolve, or outdated thinking, outdated habits and patterns and conditioning needs to be released and uprooted. So it may cause discomfort. Like if you got to uproot, you have to pull it out. It may cause some discomfort. I like this deck a lot. Alright, I'm about to pull from Believe in Your Own Magic Oracle deck. And then I need to do Aquarius reading. What message do you have for the Authentic Collective, Divine and Loving Ancestors? It's time for healing, not war, but it came out reversed, so there could definitely be some warfare. You could be either coming out of some warfare. The people around you, their debris, like it's like they're trapped in this debris here, but it's like you sitting here looking untouched, looking, you know, good as fuck, like you good in the situation, you chilling, right? You just, like, you're making the best out of the situation here. Like, you're not really, even though there's people around you that's stressing, they're dealing with some illusions, you know, these gray areas, it's very clear for you. So you have like this clear the claircognizance ability where things are very clear for you through these gray areas. All right, it's time for healing, not war. So you're able to heal while other people are at war with themselves. You're able to heal through these gray areas while other people are at war with themselves. What other messages do you have? And then we got 32. So people are at war with themselves regarding their identity. These identity crises. And being authentic. The world awaits you. Mourning. Yeah, because there could be some mourning. The things, other things that's going to be lost with releasing these outdated beliefs, right? The world awaits you. So this is talking about moving out of this energy of mourning, or this cycle, falling into a cycle of mourning. Mourning. I got a channel in about that too, or a download about that. You know how the whole concept of good morning, grand rising, you know, greetings, right? How, hey, you know, we don't really want to be told good morning, or need to be we don't believe we should be saying to people good morning. We should be saying grand rising or other things, this, that, and the third, because words are spells, you know, whatever. You could feel peer pressure to go back, you know, to doing that for the sake of keeping peace and stuff. Like, this is not what you're being instructed to do. No. Stand boldly on whatever you have learned, or or conditioned your mind, or reprogrammed your mind, retaught yourself regarding greetings or words in general, etymology. Make sure you stand firm on this. So this is talking about your boundaries regarding the information that you know, the information, how you expand your wisdom with the knowledge you seek through these books, right? So this is why the card about Hermione and her books came out as well, right? People die due to lack of knowledge. So you know how people say when you know better, the consequences are worse for you because you knew better. But when you don't know better, it's not as bad. So that's what, you know, save yourself from some karma too. So don't go back on what you've already learned as well, what you already know better for yourselves, right? What messages do you have for the Authentic Collective? Other messages do you have for the Authentic Collective? Try to keep this at an hour. And we got make the change here, the sword card. Make the change with the truth. With the truth. Allowing these changes, allowing these old energies to fall away, this outdated shit to fall away. With whatever truth that may be cutting, right? But it's necessary, right? Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. What is it about yourself that you're holding on to, that you keep falling, whatever cycle you keep falling back into, where you need to strengthen your boundaries, right? And then we got Lioness. You've earned all your stripes. Yeah, so this is talking about taking a deeper using this time now that you have the allotted time and space. You've cleared people from your path, you know, so that you can be able to go deeper. Greetings. So you can go deeper into your subconscious. That's why we have this ocean back here, right? You don't have to deal with, you know, any peer pressures or this, that, all this other stuff, right? It's about you focusing on yourself. You already able to identify warfare and all this, you know, foul shit, you know, the crooked shit, the programming, all this stuff that's happening in the world around you. This is talking about focusing on your inner world now. This is talking about removing the debris from your inner world, right? Being honest with yourself and cutting these things out, right? Cutting these things out, because this new world, or new worlds, new levels, new realities to experience awaits you. But you see, she's in the ocean. She's in the ocean, right? So this is talking about being comfortable too. Being comfortable with your subconscious, right? Those things that are deep down and buried, right? And bringing it out. It's a part of you. It's nothing to be ashamed about. Don't run from it. Embrace it, right? How can you be, you know, neutral in a situation with these extreme experiences from your past? These extreme encounters with people, you know, that even the experiences that have yet to come, right? And this is saying release your guilt. Yeah, so this is talking about holding extreme views against yourself because of your decisions or choices that you've made, right? Being very extreme, you know, with your attitude towards it. And it's saying that you need to loosen up. Ground yourself. Stop trying to escape yourself and come home to you, right? So you need to make sure you're cleaning up within. You're cleaning up your subconscious so that it's your own inner paradise. It's your own vacation spot for when you don't travel in the world around you, you know, to get that same feeling, that same experience, right? Unplug and relax for a spell. So some of you may be needing to unplug from social media for some time and get your ass in a book. Read, do something, do some yoga, read a book. Go buy some water. Go outside and ground yourself. Look, go buy some water. Confirmation. A voyage. Travel. Go on a journey, go on an adventure, right? You already have all the answers. Lighthouse, don't doubt your worth. You are always enough. You're always enough. Alright, this is your girl, the Authentic Empress. I love you guys. I hope you was able to get some gems from this. I'll see you next time. Enjoy.